Chris.
Yes, Spencer.
You saw a movie?
I did.
Okay, what movie?
I saw Phantom Thread.
Did it have a clown in it?
No.
I saw it, but not that.
The clown. We can't let it happen again.
So we saw It Part 2, Chapter 2.
Chapter 2. When I was looking on the AMC movie app, I was saying, oh boy, like all of the entire theater is sold out. I love seeing horror films with giant theaters because you get that's the most fun of seeing a horror film is with other people. You get to see all that reaction and such. Yeah. And I was so excited to be scared with other people, and I was never scared. I just laughed a lot, and I felt like I was seeing a Marvel film. I felt like I was seeing Avengers.
I hear what you're saying.
Okay.
For me, the movie, I came away with a distinct feeling that the creators of this film realized that the story and the characters were really boring, and they tried to amp it up. They tried to do whatever they could to fix that.
Yes.
And I don't think it really worked.
No, because the first one is this 80s homage film, and everything was working for that film.
Yeah.
Oh, 80s homage is big right now. They want to see kids on bikes. They want to see adventures and such, and that really worked well. But the issue is that It Chapter 2 is exactly It Chapter 1. It just kind of feels like a remake, but instead of kids, let's make it with adults, because it's the exact same story.
Yeah.
And nothing happens in the film.
There's a ton of narrative issues, yeah.
Yes.
So, God, I'd like to start with way too many characters.
Yeah, way too, yeah.
There were seven kids.
Okay.
And then 7 adults here, plus the 8th, which is like the bully who kind of comes back.
Yeah.
So that's 8 characters. And because there's such a big gap between the story in the first one and this one, it's like we're starting from scratch where it has to establish each one on their own, and then they go do their own things individually. It's just way too much like individual attempts at character development that just feel to me disparate and like, what, why?
I would say in the very beginning parts, it was actually fun seeing the characters come together. It felt so genuine when they're in
moments of that, yeah. In the restaurant.
When they're in the restaurant and they're all talking, like it feels genuine and like, oh, this actually feels great. I love being in this room with all of these characters and such. And then it's like, then I can see the producer saying, "Oh, the plot's got to keep on coming along, and let's put the clown in here, let's put some spooky stuff here, and all that." And it's just like, can we please just get back to not spooky, scary clown, more to like character stuff, or just interweave it? You know what I'm saying? I feel like that the scares should have actually done something to incorporate the narrative in the film, so like push it along instead of just having random spooky stuff happen. Like there has to be a point to this spooky stuff. Kind of like in the first one when the kid sees the leopard. And he's like, oh, I'm scared of this and all that, and you kind of learn more about his fear. You get some background to his character. And this one is just kind of like spooky stuff just kind of happens.
Yeah, it's like in the first movie, in the It Chapter 1,
yeah.
It's like all the clown is an allegory for the fears that kids have and standing up to your fears and overcoming them.
Yeah.
Because each kid's like seeing it in different ways, like what am I afraid of? It's kind of manifesting in those ways. And that's great. That's like the theme of the movie, like overcoming fears. What's the theme of this movie? Like there were moments where, okay, we're kind of stuck in the past, or like you're dealing with like stuff you tried to forget, but you haven't really gotten over it, kind of, but it was really murky.
I think that's the main issue with it, is that they have all these themes, but they're all muddled. Because they keep on bringing up this thing about, memories and how we forget them and how we have to try to remember them and then coming back to our past and such. But it even brings up another issue because the entire film is the exact duplicate of the first one, and even the ending, when I guess was like spoiler talk. Yeah, spoilers. So at the end of the film, they realize that that Pennywise feeds on your fears, but they realize that at the end of the first film.
Yeah.
So
but then they forgot all about it.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, why don't we remember anything?
Convenience of the script.
Yeah.
I forgot everything. And that was the thing. I didn't know if it was something that Pennywise did, like, oh, we've just moved on. Like, how do you forget about a horrific clown in the sewers? How do you forget about that? I would have been fine if they said that, oh, maybe Pennywise was messing with our memories or something like that. But it just, like, you cannot forget about something horrific. Like, oh yeah, I forgot that a clown bit my brother's arm off and killed him. All right. So at the very beginning, you see that one of their friends has died and he like slit his wrist or whatever. And it's framed as this horrific, just sad, scary thing of like, oh, I just don't want to deal with Pennywise. And then the film closes with his letter that he wrote to his friends, And it's essentially, he says it's not a suicide note, but it's definitely a suicide note. And it's kind of like what you were saying about the film that you saw earlier about how the music's playing, they're trying to make it this soft, melodic, just like, heartfelt thing. But this guy's reading his suicide note, and you're ending it on a suicide note.
Right.
And he says that like, I killed myself so that you guys can be stronger. What? What? No, that doesn't make sense.
No, that was really dumb.
I think that there are elements in this film that worked, but they just needed to cut out so much stuff, because
Yes.
they kept on cutting back to the kids.
Kids, dog.
Yeah. And I think that's the issue, is that they said, man, they love the 80s stuff. Let's try to bring the 80s stuff back into it chapter 2. And when they did that, I just felt like that it was just so convoluted. Like, okay, I understand that they had an upbringing and that they all grew up with each other. That's fine. I got that in It Chapter 1.
Right.
But now I want to see how it's changed. I want to see the difference now.
We want to see them as fully fleshed adults, like well-rounded characters.
Yeah.
And I think it didn't get there for most of them. I think like the Bill Hader character, he was pretty funny, and like he was my favorite screen presence.
Yes.
He had the most well-rounded character to me. Like I got what he was feeling. I got where his mind was. Like I understood him as a person.
Yeah.
And I mostly understood where Chastain Beverly was.
Oh, Beverly, yes.
I mean, she kind of had a one-note like, oh, I'm just like sad all the time kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I still like got her character. But most of the rest of the characters just were really one note to me, even more so than her.
They seem more comedic. Everyone just seemed very comedic.
Yeah, especially in the last half of the movie when they really kicked up like the undercutting any tense moment with the jokes thing. It's like that was weird.
Yeah, and in the very beginning, you're still getting a sense about who everyone is. Some of the people are a little bit more reserved, like Billy, like he's more reserved, he's not as more jokey and all that, but it just kind of felt like that everything was just jokes. And I was really hoping for some scary moments, and they just never brought up any scary moments. And every single time that they did, it was like giant CGI monster or something like that.
There's the jump scares too.
The jump scares, and also it's just tonally, it just didn't work. I don't know if you laughed at this or not, but when Beverly goes in to her old apartment and then she's
The old lady, yeah.
the old lady, and then you see her naked in the background and she's yeah. Did you laugh at that? Because I was laughing. I was laughing at that. I thought it was pretty hilarious. The entire audience
It was shot like a comedy shot.
yeah, where she's just like in the background, and also like the way that she's walking is like, it's not creepy. It's just kind of like,
I couldn't tell if I was supposed to laugh or not, but it did seem like humorous. to
Right.
me.
And then the only thing that was kind of eerie for a split second was when she's looking into the kitchen, because that's where the old lady is, and then you just hear like the footsteps of her running towards you, and you don't know where she's coming from. You could have done something effective like that, like maybe coming from the corner. And that's just a giant CGI monster with saggy boobs. And that's not scary to me. And also it's just, I never really got the sense that it was clear that this was the plot, that we have to go find artifacts.
Yeah, that was so weird.
But we're never really given any instruction on where the artifacts are, what's going on, like how are we supposed to find them. They all kind of just go off and do their own thing, and it's just go in the town, go hang out.
I really didn't like how they basically came up with an explanation for Pennywise. Oh, he's an alien, and I learned from the Native Americans that there's like going on a spirit journey. Like, what the hell?
So I did not like that, but at the same time, I would have liked the movie a lot more if that was actually the crux of what they were trying to do for the entire film. If that was the entire plot. The entire film is them trying to figure out what Pennywise is. And then they're trying to figure out, okay, now we know what Pennywise is. How do we kill? Oh, this is how you kill it. Okay, instead, they have the main character, or no, not the main character. They have Mike say that he stole this from Native Americans. He went to go smoke weed with Native Americans, and then he goes up to what's the guy's name? I forget. Is it Charlie? Maybe
Billy.
No. Billy's. I thought Billy was the fat kid. Okay. Well, anyways.
Too many characters.
Yeah. Too many characters. He brings them out to the act, and he's like, man, I took some drugs, and I'm not going to tell you I took drugs, but here's some drugs. And then
Here's a glass of water.
Yeah, he gives him a glass of water, it's got some drugs in it or whatever. But it's funny because it's like, I know you're going to hallucinate about Pennywise. But then it's like, no, I mean, I don't think that's how hallucinations work. Like, don't you think that, like you're just kind of hoping that he's going to hallucinate. Right. And if I was in there, it was like, whoa, dude, like, this is some trip out. So I was like, did you see Pennywise? Like, who is a Pennywise, man? Like, I don't got no pennies.
Yet that was a key plot point that it revealed to him the truth of what Mike was saying.
Yeah, I wish I could smoke weed and just know all the bad things about the people that want to kill me. Okay, so I know I'm harping on the film, and I do that a lot, but overall, I like part one more. I love part one.
Part one is really good.
It kind of feels like Infinity War in a way, the Avengers films, because the first one is very tight. They didn't waste any time with anything. It moved it along pretty well. And then this one just kind of feels like an amalgamation of like, just so much stuff crammed together. It felt like there are parts where it feels like that there's someone behind the camera who actually cares about what they're filming. The transition scenes I thought were really neat, like when they transition from scene to scene, and some of the cinematography I thought was really well intended. But then it feels like that the producers are behind them and saying, we got to put this in, like, at the very end of the film when you have Pennywise. Like, because at the very end, it's supposed to be a giant spider, but, maybe the audience is too stupid to know that this is Pennywise, so let's just combine the spider and Pennywise together.
Spider Clown!
Yeah, Spider Clown. So
I don't think I've said this yet. I really didn't enjoy the film.
This one?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought it was slow.
It is slow.
Like, I could cut 30 minutes like without thinking about it.
Yeah.
Boom. I probably could cut an hour.
Yeah.
Like it was so
3 hours long.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the way that I would describe it too, is I was both annoyed and enjoying it, but more so like towards the end I was starting to get really annoyed with it.
Yeah. Early on it was okay. Like I actually really liked some of the first scenes with like when Beverly's husband like is abusing her. I thought the sound in that scene was really good. Smashing of things.
Yes,
and,
the sound quality is really good, especially with the first opening scene about the couple who gets attacked by the bullies, and when you see them hitting him in the nose. That sound was just so crystal clear. You actually felt like the bone was smashed.
Yeah, makes you cringe. Yeah,
it makes you cringe. And Bill Skarsgård. I still think he's amazing as Pennywise.
Yeah. He's great.
And especially when you see the little girl talking to Pennywise underneath the bleachers when he's saying 3, 2, and then Bill Skarsgård does this thing where it feels like that the alien inside him is kind of like shutting off, and his eye drifts to the side, and then you're like, what's gonna happen? Because he did that with Georgie in the first one, and then he's like, you're supposed to say, and then I love that. That was great.
Let's talk real quick about how to fix the movie.
My first thing would be, have less characters, like fiddle them down, or just have Pennywise kind of kill them off. And then in a way that actually creates more of an interesting arc for the characters of like, we lost our friends, and that's what made us stronger together, but we just have to try to find our own inner strength.
Right. They'd like to throw, both of them felt like throwaway deaths to me. Like
it didn't really add anything to the film. And that's the thing, is that there wasn't a whole lot that happened in the film that added emotional weight to anything. It's just kind of like things happen.
Yeah, I didn't care about the characters, really.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing, is that they had moments in there where they were building up the characters. Yeah. You find out about Beverly, you find out about the kid who grew up who essentially just married his mom.
Right.
Yeah.
Hypochondriac guy.
Yeah, that was great. And you learn these little things, but I feel like that they just had this wave of scary clown and stupid jump scares and plot about finding artifacts, and it just submerged it. Because I feel like it was there. It was there, but there was like this much of it, and then there was like this much of all the other stuff. Yeah. It was drowning it. They needed to figure out what their theme was, and they needed to stick by it. Yeah. Because it was just so muddled. And I feel like that with that theme, they could have blended together so much of it better.
The first one's all about your current fears and overcoming them. This could have been more like your baggage that you haven't really addressed, and it's like sitting in the back of your mind, you're trying to ignore it, and finally facing it and dealing with it. So it's like a similar theme, but that could still be distinct.
Yeah.
It just felt so like pushed off to the side most of the time in this movie. That was the closest I can get to identifying a theme. And
the other thing I would say is making the scares actually having a point.
Yeah.
Because I feel that a lot of movies now, they just have scares, but they just kind of think about creepy things like, there's blood coming out of the faucet. I'm just coming up with like random ideas in a horror film. Like you open the book and then it starts writing in blood, like your death or something like that. And those things are fine, but I think that they should be connected to whatever the monster is. There should be a point. Like, just not spooky stuff should just happen.
Yeah.
There needs to be a reason of why the monster does this. Kind of like when we were watching Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. There's mostly a point to all of these monsters about why they're happening, what's going on.
Right. Yeah, and that's actually the problem I had with the little girl that he ate under the bleachers. Like, the way it was shot, like, okay, he's creepy, it's kind of cool looking, but going with the from the first movie when he's basically like preying on their fears, he's like feeding on their fear kind of thing. you can kind of imagine, okay, he's like a manifestation of fear.
Yeah,
Sure. But when he's like an alien who's just eating kids, it's like, what's the point? Like, there's nothing interesting about it. Just from a psychological standpoint, like, he's not preying on this girl for any reason. Or like, at the beginning when he eats the boyfriend, like, he's not eating that guy for any particular reason. He's just eating, just randomly, like...
Yeah, it's a little muddled in that sense because in the first one you believe that Pennywise is just trying to get kids scared. He's just dragging them down, and that's like kind of what I'm talking about scares making sense. He doesn't eat them right away. He could easily do that, but he does that to kind of build up that fear.
Yeah, it's like he chooses to make them afraid.
Exactly.
And he's, running at them.
Yeah. And like he could have easily eaten them, but then for some reason, I guess like they taste more delicious, or it's better. It's like in the very first film, it was delicious fear.
Yeah, but in this one, the girl's not even afraid of him when he eats her.
Yeah.
So like.
Yeah. So the entire ideas are muddled there a little bit. I don't know. You could also argue that he just came back and now he just needs to get some like.
But that's treading into the territory of like explaining what he is. He's like some kind of alien spiritual life form or something, which.
Yeah, we don't really need the explanation of him unless that you were actually going to make that the crux of the film, which I think that they should have just gone that route because this film doesn't really have a plot.
No. Okay, I have a few quick thoughts about how I would have edited this movie. The very beginning, you have two scenes of like a voiceover where Mike's like, memories are something that you leave behind sometimes.
Right,
and
setting the theme.
Right, so he's like,
Supposed.
right. But it was a fine setup.
Yeah.
So there's two scenes of that, but in between, there's like the very first thing we see is the kids again, and then in between is the scene of the fair, and then it gets beat up and killed. It seemed pretty clear to me that it was originally written. It should have been written to just have the voiceover scenes. Like, you don't need to see the kids, and you don't need to see the Pennywise killing people. You just need to see Mike's talking about, he sets the theme, and then he says, oh, the clown is back, and then title screen. Like, that would have set the stage perfectly, and we're not missing any information. But I presume they're like, oh, we need to have a scary scene at the beginning, so we need to have an extra scene of Pennywise coming and killing people for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to think about a way that they were trying to justify that, and I was thinking that with the entire background of the story about it is how we don't acknowledge the things that we actually should be paying attention to. Kind of like in the first film about, most of the people that the kids meet are assholes.
Yeah.
And I would have toned that down a little bit, but for the most part, I think it's because that no one wants to pay attention to the bad things that are happening. Like in the very first one, you see the kid, he's getting the things carved into his stomach, and then you just see these two parents, and then they're just like driving by. They're just like, oh, whatever. We're just gonna ignore that. But I feel like they could have communicated that a little faster and maybe a little better with that because it doesn't really necessarily tie into the rest of it. It kind of sets the theme, but again, the theme is muddled.
Yeah.
So you need to make it stronger.
Right. So you can cut those first two scenes that I mentioned. And then you also, I think, need to roll these characters together. Like, I would have done it in the first one too, like, just get rid of one of the kids. So you just have 6 kids instead of 7. The difference between Stan, Billy, the fat kid, and like the hypochondriac, like they all kind of blur in my mind.
Especially the kid who's the hypochondriac and Bill Hader's character. Those two are like, they're very funny.
Right.
But they're almost too funny. They're almost like the same kid.
Right. I think you would have had to rewrite a little bit to combine those. Just get rid of one of the kids, and then that allows the other characters to be a little more fleshed out, more memorable, more
You
distinct.
get to spend more time with them.
Yeah. And that would help this movie a lot too, because I think it's good they killed one of the characters, because then that reduces it further. If you had 5 instead of 6 here, I think that would have been a lot better. And then also, you could team them up.
That's what I was thinking too. And then they can actually learn more about them.
Right.
Like, oh, we have like this love thing going on, and then I thought you did this when we were like, no, you were my best friend. Something like you explore more about it.
Yeah.
And then instead of just showing us when they're flashbacks and such, you're actually just showing it to us, and we're still stuck in this modern day setting instead of just like, man, we're jumping back and forth. Like,
we shouldn't have seen any kids.
Yeah.
No. So the 1990s movie structurally is really bad. They intermix the adult and kid stuff for like the whole movie, from the very beginning. It's so it's unwatchable. At least by today's standards, it's unwatchable.
Not to mention that they put more Pennywise stuff into the kids section, which really messes up the first one, because then you're thinking, well, why didn't they just talk about this earlier in the film than the first one? Like it just happens like spooky clown, like, oh, I'm not gonna bring that up.
So you get the first minute where you have the voiceover by Mike, get the title screen, and then you have 7 or 8 minutes of introductions, getting everyone together, and then you're at the restaurant. Yeah. Once you have them split apart, you maybe have a group of two, two groups of two, and then one. So maybe one goes off on their own because the Bill Hader character maybe he's like, no, I'm leaving. But then the other two go off in groups of two maybe. So then you have you only have a couple plot threads to follow rather than 7. We had 7 because we had 6 of the kids plus they have scenes of the bully.
And the plot threads don't go anywhere, really.
Yeah, they're all just
they're walking around town. Yeah. And they don't know where to go, so you're not really engaged of oh, they gotta do the thing.
Yeah. So much time has passed from the first one, they're basically...
Now they gotta learn, they gotta learn about each other.
Right.
They gotta figure out oh, what's going on and all that. And then in that way, when you have them all split together in groups, then you get to learn more and more. You get the banter back and forth, man, I don't like you anymore, or something like that. Yeah. Something intriguing.
So you have the scene at the restaurant, which is good, because they're all oh, we're reconnecting, we're remembering. Mm-hmm. And then having that also unlock, but their baggage, their painful trauma that they've kind of pushed aside.
Exactly.
Have that get revealed naturally so that we start to see, they all have something that they need to resolve.
Bring back Beverly's whole thing about her abusive husband and how that's been kind of a thing that's just been fine, it's been leaving a trail and all that, how she just has to face that or something like that and incorporate that into the story somehow.
They took a step in that direction because they did. They had her go back to her house. Because she's I'm trying to kind of follow up this old trauma. Because seeing her husband is just like her dad was it shows that she's been stuck in this pattern of behavior, which I thought was effective. But they should have shown more so that each character is I have this thing I need to fix, and then they can go do it. And then we actually understand they're doing this for a character reason, rather than just wandering around borderline aimlessly Billy. She goes and gets his bike back. He buys his bike from Stephen King.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. I enjoyed that.
Sure. That was a good cameo, but
Yeah, but that was it. There was no point of he has to go get his bike or something
that.
Yeah,
why does his bike mean he's rediscovering himself? Because he's riding his bike, he's I'm king of the world!
Yeah.
What?
We can do this, but we have to stick together.
It was so obscure, and so
give them a plot.
Yeah.
Give them a point. Because yes, you could argue that, but they have to go find their thing. Yes, but that's so ambiguous. You're not giving us a center point what's the plot of Lord of the Rings? Go destroy the ring. Okay, I got it.
And that kid that follows them around had no purpose.
See, that's another great moment of having some character development. It's he's seeing Georgie again, essentially.
It could have been.
Yeah, it could have been. You could have had him wear something that's kind of yellowish, like Georgie had, or something like that. And he just wants to protect him, great character moment stuff.
But he wasn't the one who met him first, because in the restaurant he was talking to Bill Hader.
Yeah. Again, it's muddled. So I would say I love the first one so much more. I watched it the other day and I just thought that it was effective. But it could have been phenomenal. These films could have been phenomenal, but it's being padded down by just way too much excess.
I feel they felt they had to do the excess here because
it's also what's popular.
Yeah, and
because the first one is it's 80s kids, everyone likes Stranger Things, and this one's everyone likes Marvel. We gotta have the cinematic giant horror action thing, kind of like what they did with the Resident Evil video games.
Oh yeah.
At the very end, it's just giant action, and then. But
my eyes were glazing over.
Yeah, I know. But I will say to the movie's credit, I do enjoy though. At some point, it kind of turned into the very first Nightmare on Elm Street, where they say, "Oh, you're not my fear anymore. I'm not giving you my power," or anything like that. It wasn't we got to stab it with something or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
So I enjoyed it when they were saying, you're not my fear. You're not my fear, and okay, that's nice. I enjoy that instead of it. I mean, because in the first part, yes, I know. In the first, it's at the very final act, it's 80% giant spider clown thing, and that was stupid. But in the very last 10% is just. I enjoyed
just
that.
You clown. That seemed really strange to me.
Really?
Yeah, because yes, he's a clown. He knows he's a clown, but his feelings are getting hurt by them.
No, so I think the entire idea of it is that they are taking away his power because their fear fuels him. So at the same time, their own imagination fuels him.
They seem still afraid of him.
I don't know.
Wouldn't they have been oh wait, we don't have to be afraid of this guy. Eh.
Yeah,
they just would have shrugged their shoulders, and that would have deflated.
But I guess, but then that just seems like such a jump to it. I guess with this one, it seems that they had to believe in themselves. I know at Disney that sounds, but they needed to believe that they could bring him down by saying, okay, we're still terrified, but we got to try. We got to you're such a stupid clown, because he uses the entire idea is that he likes the figure of the clown. That's why he chose the figure of the clown, and so he's trying to use that to scare him. Like, but you're just a clown. So now they're trying to take the idea of the clown that is scary and just trying to put it on its head by saying, "Oh, you're trying to use this to scare us? Okay, we don't give a crap about clowns." So we're probably different in that regard.
It didn't work for me. I was rolling my eyes. But, okay. So I can see that working for some people. They just needed to make these characters more interesting, and I maybe like Stephen King didn't want to adapt it more. That like he wouldn't have wanted more of a rewrite, but that's what you needed. You needed to like strip out all this extra stuff and just rewrite the characters to be a little more interesting.
And you needed to get the producers out of there because they just kept on saying like, "Oh, we gotta have the
jokes,
scary, the jokes, the scary stuff, the Marvel-esque action movie in your horror."
Yeah, and if it was a goofy movie, like if the whole tone of the movie was more funny, that would have been fine. Like, look at Us. I thought Us had a good balance of humor to horror, and it managed to kind of do both at the same time.
It did.
Without like deflating the horror. But every time that they have, at least most of the time they have jokes in this one, it like takes me out of it.
Yeah.
Like it built up a dramatic moment that it's trying to make you feel genuinely invested in, and then it's like, nope, but we're joking now.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Give us more with Pennywise with these characters. So actually have him have more of an impact on them instead of just, I've been waiting for you, actually have him be pissed. You know, he's someone who's just like, you guys did this to me. You know, actually have a relationship. It's kind of like Voldemort at the end of the Harry Potter films, where it's just, you don't really feel an emotional connection. He's angry at him for whatever. There's
Yeah, exactly. That's actually a really good point, because if we have him representing like the baggage that they didn't address, they just left it behind and forgotten about it, he would be angry at them. He'd be like, you haven't resolved me.
Yeah, and that would be so great, like him antagonizing them throughout the rest of the film, like all of it, instead of just having it be this one sentence at the very end, like, I've been waiting for you, I've missed you. I would have liked to see that sprinkle throughout the entire film.
Oh yeah, that would have been way better,
Yeah, and then you would actually felt scared, like, oh man, he's really pissed. This is a clown from outer space or whatever, and he's gonna kill us.
Yeah.
That's great. So.
Yeah, so I guess overall, I didn't enjoy it. I think the first one stands on its own pretty well. I mean, near the end, it kind of, dangles the sequel bait a little bit, but I'd recommend the first one. I wouldn't recommend this one. I didn't find it enjoyable.
I would give it a moderate recommendation. You could go see it. Just be wary that it is about 3 hours long and such. It has enjoyable factors of it, and I still like seeing films that aren't great, but it's still good enough where you can pick apart and like, oh, that's interesting, that's kind of cool, that's neat. But yeah, I would say, yeah, you go see it.
Yeah. All right. Well, then I think that's what we got to say about that.
Next time
on Movie Stubs.
Well, I don't know what we're going to review. Oh, that's perfect timing. All right.